The champagne hit his face like a slap. First class went silent. A white woman in diamonds screamed racial slurs at the black man in the tailored suit. Passengers gasped. Phones came out. Flight attendants froze. He wiped his face slowly, champagne dripping onto $15,000 worth of Italian fabric. Then he smiled. 5 words left his lips, quiet but deadly: "I own this entire airline." Her face drained of all color. What happened next changed everything. Before we dive into this unbelievable story, drop a comment and let us know where you're watching from. If you believe karma is real, smash that like button right now. And subscribe because you won't want to miss what happens when privilege meets consequences. Trust me, this story has more twists than a roller coaster. Now, let's get into it. Theodore Washington settled into seat 2A with the quiet confidence of a man who had earned everything he owned. At 38, he wore success like his navy suit, perfectly tailored, understated, impossible to ignore. The Patek Philippe on his wrist cost more than most cars. His leather briefcase was hand-stitched in Florence. But none of that mattered to the woman glaring at him from seat 2B. Adelaide Morgan radiated the kind of entitlement that came from generations of inherited wealth. 52 years old, dripping in Cartier jewelry, her face had the pinched expression of someone perpetually smelling something unpleasant. Today, that something was Theodore. She had boarded the Atlanta-bound flight expecting first class to herself. The sight of a black man in the seat next to hers sent her blood pressure soaring. "Excuse me." Her voice cut through the cabin like broken glass. "Flight attendant." Amber rushed over, her smile professionally bright. "Yes, ma'am. How can I help you?" Adelaide's eyes never left Theodore. "I'd like to know why those people are allowed in first class." The cabin temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. Theodore didn't look up from his laptop. He had heard it all before. Had lived it his entire life. The whispers. The assumptions. The shock on people's faces when they realized he belonged exactly where he was. Amber's smile faltered. "Ma'am, all our first-class passengers have purchased their tickets and are welcome aboard." "I'm sure they have." Adelaide's tone dripped with sarcasm. "Probably some diversity program or affirmative action nonsense. Next thing you know, they'll be giving away seats to anyone." An older gentleman across the aisle, Albert, lowered his newspaper. "That's completely inappropriate." Adelaide rounded on him. "Mind your own business. I paid good money for this seat. I have every right to comfortable accommodations without having to sit next to." She gestured vaguely at Theodore. Theodore finally looked up. His eyes were calm, almost amused. "Without having to sit next to what, exactly? Don't you dare speak to me." Adelaide's voice rose. "I know your type. Drug dealer, probably. Or some athlete who got lucky. That watch is probably fake. The suit too. I bet you stole that briefcase." Amber's face had gone pale. "Ma'am, please lower your voice. You're disturbing other passengers." "I'll do no such thing." Adelaide's hand shot out, grabbing the champagne flute Amber had just set down. "I paid for peace and quiet, and instead I have to deal with this affirmative action charity case sitting next to me. Probably didn't work a day in his life for that seat." Theodore returned his attention to his laptop, fingers moving across the keyboard with practiced ease. He was reviewing quarterly reports for Skybridge Airlines. His airline. The one Adelaide was currently flying on, hurling insults without the slightest idea who sat beside her. The irony would have been funny if it weren't so predictable. "Are you ignoring me?" Adelaide's voice climbed another octave. "How dare you? I'm talking to you." Other passengers had stopped all pretense of minding their own business. Phones were out. Recording. Theodore could see at least 5 cameras pointed in his direction. Good. Let them document this. Ma'am, I really must insist. Amber tried again. No. Adelaide stood up, wobbling slightly in her designer heels. I will not sit next to this person for 3 hours. Move him. Move me. I don't care. This is unacceptable. I fly this route twice a month. I'm a platinum member. I have rights. Theodore closed his laptop carefully. Set it aside. Turned to face Adelaide with the full force of his attention. You have rights, he said quietly. So do I. Rights? Adelaide laughed, sharp and cruel. People like you don't belong in first class. You should be grateful they even let you on the plane. Back in the old days. Ma'am. Albert stood up, his face red. That's enough. I'm a retired judge, and I'm telling you right now, you're out of line. Adelaide spun toward him. A traitor to your own race. Defending these people. You should be ashamed. The cabin erupted in murmurs. Shocked whispers. Gasps of disbelief. Theodore remained perfectly still. He had learned long ago that stillness was power. Let them reveal themselves. Let the cameras capture every word, every gesture, every ugly truth they tried to hide in polite society. Adelaide grabbed her champagne flute. Her hand was shaking with rage. Or maybe fear. Theodore couldn't tell which. You think you're something special? She stepped closer. Sitting there in your fake suit with your fake watch, pretending to be somebody. I know exactly what you are. And what am I? Theodore's voice was soft as silk. You're nothing. Adelaide's lips curled. You're nobody. And you definitely don't belong here. Then she threw the champagne. The liquid hit Theodore's face in a cold spray. Soaked into his collar. Dripped down onto his suit jacket. The Loro Piena fabric darkened instantly. $15,000 worth of Italian craftsmanship ruined in a second. The cabin went dead silent. Adelaide stood there, empty glass in her hand, breathing hard. A wild look in her eyes. Like she couldn't believe what she had just done. Like she had surprised even herself. Theodore sat very still. Champagne dripped from his chin. From his nose. Into his lap. Then Adelaide found her voice again. That's what you deserve, you uppity. The slur that came out of her mouth made several passengers gasp out loud. Amber rushed forward with napkins, her hands shaking. Sir, I'm so sorry, I'm so incredibly sorry. Get him off this plane. Adelaide demanded. He provoked me. You all saw it. I want him removed immediately. Albert's voice cut through the chaos. That's assault. I witnessed the entire thing. She assaulted him. Assault? Adelaide laughed. It's champagne, not a weapon. Besides, he probably needed a bath anyway. More phones came out. More cameras. The entire first-class cabin was now documenting every second. Theodore reached for the napkins Amber offered. Wiped his face slowly. Methodically. Each movement deliberate. Controlled. Adelaide's confidence seemed to grow with his silence. That's right. Clean yourself up. Then get to the back of the plane where you belong. I'm calling the captain. I'm having you arrested when we land. You'll regret ever stepping foot in this cabin. She reached up, pressed the call button repeatedly. Captain. Captain, I need you up here immediately. There's been an incident. Theodore finished wiping his face. Stood up. Tall. Imposing. Every inch of him radiating quiet authority. Adelaide took a step back. Something in his eyes made her pause. Theodore pulled out his phone. Dialed a number. Put it on speaker. The voice that answered was crisp, professional. Mr. Washington. Sir, is everything all right? Theodore's eyes never left Adelaide's face. This is Theodore Washington. I need the captain in first class. Now. The color started draining from Adelaide's face, but she wasn't ready to believe it yet. She laughed. High-pitched. Nervous. Mr. Washington. She made air quotes with her fingers. How creative. Did you steal someone's identity too? Next you'll be telling me you're a CEO or something equally ridiculous. Theodore said nothing. Just stood there, phone still in hand, champagne staining his collar. Waiting. The cockpit door opened. Captain Andrew Chen emerged, his uniform crisp, his expression professional. He took 3 steps into first class, saw Theodore, and went absolutely rigid. Mr. Washington. The captain's voice was tight. Sir. I had no idea you were on this flight. Adelaide's laugh died in her throat. Captain Chen. Theodore's voice remained calm. I apologize for the interruption. I was conducting a routine assessment of our customer service experience when this passenger decided to assault me. Our customer service. Our. The words hung in the air like smoke. Adelaide's mouth opened. Closed. Opened again. No sound came out. I'm incredibly sorry, sir. Captain Chen's face had gone red. This is completely unacceptable. What can I do? Theodore gestured to his ruined suit. As you can see, I've been assaulted with champagne. The passenger has also used several racial slurs, all captured on multiple devices by witnesses. He nodded toward the phone still recording. I'd like this documented properly. Of course, sir. Immediately. Captain Chen pulled out his tablet, began typing. Ma'am, I'm going to need your name and. Wait. Adelaide's voice was barely a whisper. Wait. You called him Mr. Washington. You said our customer service. What does that mean? Theodore reached into his jacket pocket. Pulled out his wallet. Extracted his driver's license and 2 business cards. Handed them to Captain Chen, who glanced at them and nodded. Captain, would you mind confirming my identity for the passengers? Captain Chen cleared his throat. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Captain Andrew Chen. The man standing before you is Theodore Washington, founder and CEO of Skybridge Airlines. He is the owner of this aircraft, this airline, and every plane in our fleet. The silence was absolute. Crushing. Adelaide swayed on her feet. The empty champagne glass slipped from her fingers, shattered on the floor. She grabbed the seat back for support. That's not possible. Her voice came out strangled. You're lying. This is some kind of joke. He can't be, he's black. Albert's voice was cold as ice. Is that what you were going to say? Theodore pulled out his phone again. Scrolled through his photo gallery. Turned the screen to show Adelaide. There he was at the Skybridge Airlines ribbon-cutting ceremony. Shaking hands with the mayor of Atlanta. Accepting an award from the National Business Association. Standing in front of a Boeing 787 with Skybridge Airlines emblazoned on the side, his arm around his beaming mother. I own this entire airline, Theodore repeated, his voice quiet but carrying through the cabin. I built it from nothing. Every plane. Every route. Every employee. Including the captain standing next to you. Adelaide's knees buckled. She collapsed into her seat, her face the color of old newspaper. I didn't. She couldn't form complete sentences. I thought you were. I assumed. You assumed. Theodore's voice was sharp now, cutting. You saw a black man in first class and assumed I didn't belong. Assumed I was a criminal. A fraud. Someone who needed to be put in their place. Amber the flight attendant had backed up against the galley wall, her face a mask of horror. She had recognized Theodore the moment he spoke. Had seen his photo in the company newsletter just last week. Had said nothing, watching to see how he would handle the situation. "Mr. Washington, I can explain," Adelaide started. "Can you?" Theodore cut her off. "Can you explain why you called me slurs? Why you said I didn't belong in first class on my own airline? Why you threw a drink in my face?" Adelaide's hands were shaking violently. "I made a mistake. A terrible mistake. I didn't know who you were. And if I wasn't the owner?" Theodore leaned forward. "If I was just a passenger? Would that make your behavior acceptable?" "No. No, of course not, I just..." "You just what? Thought you could get away with it?" Theodore straightened. "You thought because I'm black, I must have done something wrong to afford first class. Must have stolen or cheated or lucked into money I didn't deserve." The business traveler in row 3, Aiden, held up his phone. "I got the whole thing on video. From the moment she started with the racial comments to when she threw the drink. All of it." "Me too," said Adrian, traveling with his wife Adriana. "Crystal clear footage. I heard everything," Albert added. "Every slur. Every insult. I'm a retired federal judge. I'll testify to exactly what I witnessed." Adelaide looked around the cabin wildly, seeing cameras everywhere. Seeing her own face reflected in a dozen phone screens. Seeing the end of life as she knew it. "Please." She stood up, reached for Theodore's arm. He stepped back smoothly. "Please, Mr. Washington. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean any of it. I was stressed. I wasn't thinking. Please, you have to understand." "I understand perfectly." Theodore's eyes were cold. "I understand that you felt entitled to abuse a stranger based solely on the color of his skin. I understand that you assaulted me. I understand that you did all of this while flying on an airline I built with my own 2 hands, starting from nothing, fighting against people exactly like you every single day." Captain Chen had been typing furiously on his tablet. "Sir, I've documented everything. Multiple witness statements. Video evidence. Her frequent flyer profile is already pulled up." Theodore glanced at the screen. "Platinum status. Flies twice a month. Atlanta to New York, usually." "Not anymore," Captain Chen said quietly. Adelaide's eyes went wide. "What? No. You can't. I need these flights. My daughter's wedding is in Atlanta. I have business. I have." "You had platinum status," Theodore corrected. Past tense. Skybridge Airlines has a zero-tolerance policy for discrimination and assault. When you purchased your ticket, you agreed to our terms of service. Section 12, subsection 4 clearly states that hate speech or physical assault will result in immediate and permanent removal from all Skybridge services. "But I didn't know it was your airline." Adelaide's voice climbed to a shriek. "That's your defense?" Albert shook his head in disgust. "You didn't know you were assaulting the owner, so it should be fine." Theodore pulled out his tablet. Opened Adelaide's frequent flyer account. Adelaide Morgan. Member since 2018. 214 flights with Skybridge. Platinum status for the last 4 years. He scrolled through her file. Multiple complaints filed. Not by you. Against you. Adelaide went very still. 3 separate incidents of rudeness to flight attendants. 2 complaints from other passengers about your behavior. All documented. All explained away. All swept under the rug because you spent enough money to make it worth our while. Theodore looked up from the screen. Not anymore. His fingers moved across the tablet. Adelaide Morgan. Lifetime ban from Skybridge Airlines, effective immediately. Status revoked. All future reservations cancelled. You are no longer welcome on any aircraft in our fleet. Adelaide made a sound like a wounded animal. No. Please. You can't do this to me. I just did. Theodore handed the tablet back to Captain Chen. Make sure this goes into the shared database. I want every major airline to know exactly who they're dealing with. Shared database. Adelaide whispered. Airlines share information about problem passengers, Theodore explained, his voice cold and clinical. For safety reasons. When someone is banned from one airline for assault and hate speech, other airlines tend to take notice. I suspect you'll find yourself persona non grata across the industry very shortly. Adelaide collapsed back into her seat, her designer purse falling to the floor, contents spilling across the champagne-stained carpet. Her phone was buzzing. Theodore could see the screen lighting up with notifications. Text messages. Calls. Social media alerts. She picked it up with shaking hands. Looked at the screen. Her face went from white to green. It's already online, she breathed. The video. It's everywhere. Captain Chen remained in the cabin, his tablet open, his expression grave. Mr. Washington, with your permission, I'd like to gather formal statements from all witnesses while events are fresh. Theodore nodded. Proceed. Adelaide tried to stand. I need to leave. I need to get off this plane right now. Sit down. Theodore's voice wasn't loud, but it carried absolute authority. This flight hasn't departed yet, and you're not going anywhere until we've properly documented everything. You can't keep me here. This is kidnapping. Albert actually laughed. That's rich. You assault a man, hurl racial slurs at him on his own aircraft, and you think you're the victim. Captain Chen turned to Theodore. Sir, for the record, would you like to share your background with the passengers? I think context might be important here. Theodore considered this. Nodded slowly. He rarely talked about his past. Had built an empire without relying on his story for sympathy or marketing. But these people had witnessed something ugly. They deserved to understand what they had really seen. I grew up on the south side of Chicago, Theodore began, his voice steady. Single mother. 3 jobs. We lived in a 1-bedroom apartment that flooded every time it rained. My mom worked as a cleaning lady, a night shift factory worker, and did people's laundry on weekends. The cabin was silent except for his voice. I got a full scholarship to MIT. Aerospace engineering. I was usually the only black student in my classes. Professors assumed I was there on an athletic scholarship. Other students assumed I'd cheated on the entrance exams. Theodore's jaw tightened. I graduated top of my class. Adelaide was staring at her hands. I worked in aircraft maintenance for 8 years. Worked my way up. Saved every penny. Saw how people of color were treated in the aviation industry. Pilots passed over for promotions. Flight attendants subjected to harassment. Mechanics assumed to be incompetent until proven otherwise. He paused. I decided to build something different. Captain Chen spoke up. 10 years ago, Mr. Washington purchased a failing regional airline with 12 planes and 200 employees. Most people said he was crazy. That he'd lose everything. I almost did, Theodore admitted. The first 2 years were hell. Banks wouldn't give me loans. Investors didn't take me seriously. I had to prove myself 3 times over just to get a meeting. He looked directly at Adelaide. People like you told me I didn't belong in boardrooms. That I should stay in my lane. That someone like me couldn't possibly run an airline. Adrian spoke up from row 3. How many planes do you have now? 68 aircraft. 3,000 employees. We serve 42 cities across North America. Theodore's voice filled with quiet pride. Last year, Skybridge Airlines was valued at $3.2 billion. We're the fastest growing airline in the country. And we have the highest customer satisfaction ratings in the industry. Amber, the flight attendant, was crying silently, tears streaming down her face. I fly incognito sometimes, Theodore continued. To see what our customer experience really looks like. To understand what needs improvement. Today, I learned we have serious problems that need addressing. Adelaide finally looked up. I'll pay for your suit. Any amount. Just, please. I'll do anything. You think this is about money? Theodore's voice was incredulous. You think you can write a check and erase what you did? I don't know what else to do. Adelaide's voice broke. I made a mistake. A terrible, horrible mistake. I'm not usually like this. Aren't you? Theodore pulled out his phone again. Showed her the screen. My security team works fast. In the last 20 minutes, they've pulled up some interesting information about you. Adelaide's eyes widened. Your country club membership. Member of the admission committee for 15 years. Want to guess how many black applicants were accepted during your tenure? Theodore didn't wait for an answer. 0. Not one. Every single application denied. The reasons cited were always vague. Not a cultural fit. Wouldn't integrate well with current membership. Doesn't meet our community standards. That wasn't just me. The whole committee. You voted against every single one, Theodore cut her off. The records are very clear. Even when other committee members wanted to approve applications, you argued against it. Used coded language. Dog whistles. But we both know what you really meant. Adriana gasped. That's disgusting. Theodore kept scrolling. Then there's your employment history. Household staff turnover rate of 300%. You've had 14 different housekeepers in the last 5 years. 8 of them were women of color. All quit within months. Some filed complaints with the labor board about hostile work environment and wage theft. Adelaide was shaking her head violently. Those complaints were dismissed. They were lying. They were trying to get money from me. All 14 of them. Albert's voice dripped with sarcasm. That's quite a conspiracy. Your gardener last year, Theodore continued reading. Andrew Martinez. You accused him of theft. Called the police. Nearly had him arrested. Except he hadn't stolen anything. Your expensive garden gnome was found exactly where you'd misplaced it. You never apologized. Never compensated him for the trauma. He lost his business because word spread that he was a thief. I made a mistake. Adelaide was shouting now. I thought he took it. Anyone could have thought that. Could they? Theodore's eyes were hard. Or did you assume the Latino gardener must have stolen from you? Just like you assumed the black man in first class must be a criminal. Captain Chen had been taking notes the entire time. Sir, this establishes a clear pattern of discriminatory behavior. It does, Theodore agreed. Which means this wasn't an isolated incident. This wasn't stress or a bad day or a momentary lapse in judgment. This is who you are. Adelaide's phone buzzed again. She looked down, her face crumpling. It's my husband. He's seen the video. She couldn't finish the sentence. Let me guess, Albert said. He's not happy that your racism is now public. Adelaide scrolled through her phone with shaking hands. My daughter. She's calling. The wedding, oh God, the wedding. Theodore watched dispassionately as Adelaide answered the call on speaker, her hands trembling too much to hold the phone properly. Mom. A young woman's voice, high-pitched with panic. Mom, what did you do? It's everywhere. Everyone is sending me the video. The venue is calling. Some of our guests are backing out. Jeremy's parents are. She dissolved into sobs. Amber, sweetie, I can explain. Explain what? Explain why there's a video of you throwing a drink at someone and calling them. The daughter couldn't even say the words. How could you? How could you do this? My wedding is in 3 weeks. I didn't know he owned the airline. I didn't know who he was. That makes it worse, Mom. That makes it so much worse. You did that to a stranger. You did that to someone who was just sitting there. The daughter's voice broke. Jeremy's family is black, Mom. His mother is black. What am I supposed to tell them? That my mother is a racist? Adelaide made a wounded sound. I'm not. I'm not racist. I have black friends. Theodore actually laughed at that. Short. Bitter. The daughter was crying harder now. Don't. Just don't. I can't. I can't deal with this right now. Don't come to Atlanta. Don't come to my wedding. I can't have you there. Not after this. Amber, please. You're my daughter. I love you. If you loved me, you wouldn't have done this. The line went dead. Adelaide sat frozen, phone in hand, her entire world collapsing in real time. Her phone buzzed again. Another call. She answered automatically. Hello. Adelaide, this is Bernard. Her husband's voice was cold. Clinical. I'm at the club. They've seen the video. The board has requested that we both resign our memberships immediately. Bernard, I'm filing for separation. My lawyers will contact you tomorrow. Do not come home. I've had the locks changed. Your belongings will be packed and sent to your sister's house. He paused. I knew you had certain views. I overlooked them. But this? This I cannot overlook. Goodbye, Adelaide. Another deadline. Another piece of her life, gone. Theodore watched it all unfold. Felt nothing. No satisfaction. No pity. Just cold recognition of consequences finally catching up to actions. Mr. Washington. Adelaide's voice was small. Broken. Please. I've lost everything. My daughter. My husband. My home. Isn't that enough? Enough? Theodore's voice was soft. Dangerous. Tell me, Adelaide. When you accused Andrew Martinez of theft and nearly destroyed his business, did you think about whether you'd hurt him enough? When you rejected every black applicant to your country club, did you ever ask yourself if that was enough? When you underpaid and abused your housekeepers, did you ever consider that maybe you'd done enough damage? Adelaide had no answer. You're not upset that you did these things, Theodore continued. You're upset that you got caught. You're upset that for the first time in your privileged life, your actions have consequences you can't buy your way out of. Captain Chen's tablet chimed. Sir, we're getting confirmation from Delta, United, and American. They've all flagged her account pending investigation. That was fast, Adrian muttered. The aviation industry takes assault seriously, Captain Chen explained. Especially when it's documented this thoroughly. Theodore's phone was ringing constantly now. His PR team. His lawyers. News outlets. He silenced it. There would be time for all of that later. Right now, he needed to see this through. Adelaide Morgan, Theodore said formally. You have assaulted me. You have used hate speech. You have violated the terms of service you agreed to when purchasing your ticket. You are hereby permanently banned from Skybridge Airlines. This ban is non-negotiable and will not be appealed. Please, Adelaide whispered one last time. No, Theodore said simply. Actions have consequences. Welcome to accountability. The video had been live for exactly 23 minutes when Theodore checked the view count. 3 million. Rising fast. The numbers climbed even as he watched. 3.2 million. 3.5 million. Aidan, the business traveler who had first uploaded the footage, looked stunned. I've never seen anything go viral this fast. The comments are insane. Theodore could see people throughout the cabin scrolling through their own social media feeds, watching different angles of the same incident uploaded by different passengers. The algorithm had already made its judgment. This was the story of the day. Adelaide's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Text messages flooded in so fast the notifications became a continuous tone. She stared at the screen, her face illuminated by the harsh blue light, watching her entire social circle implode in real time. Karen at her finest, one text read. Please tell me that's not you in the viral video. Another, the club president just called an emergency meeting. Everyone is talking about you. And another, I always knew you had issues, but this is beyond. Theodore's own phone was its own kind of chaos. His assistant Alice had already sent 17 messages, each more urgent than the last. CNN wants an exclusive interview, ***. Fox News is calling, ***. MSNBC, NBC, ABC, CBS all requesting statements, ***. Civil rights organizations reaching out in support, ***. Your mother is calling. She's worried. Call her back ASAP, ***. Theodore typed a quick response to his mother. I'm fine. We'll call soon. Love you, ***. Then he opened Twitter. The hashtag was already trending. Number 2 in the United States. Number 7 worldwide. Hashtag Skybridge Justice ***. He scrolled through the posts. Thousands of them. Tens of thousands. This is what accountability looks like. Imagine being so racist you throw a drink at the literal owner of the airline. The look on her face when she realized though. Priceless. This man built a $3 billion airline from nothing and she called him a thief. The audacity of white privilege. My new hero. Theodore Washington for president. But not all the comments were supportive. Theodore had expected that. He's being too harsh. Everyone makes mistakes. She apologized. Isn't that enough? Cancel culture has gone too far. She's already lost her family. Theodore closed Twitter. He had seen enough. The court of public opinion would rule however it would rule. He had more immediate concerns. Amber the flight attendant approached hesitantly. Mr. Washington. I need to ask. What do you want us to do? The flight is already delayed by 40 minutes. Passengers in economy are getting restless. Theodore considered this. Make an announcement. Explain there's been an incident that's being documented. Offer complimentary drinks and snacks to everyone. Assure them we'll depart as soon as possible. Yes, sir. Amber picked up the intercom handset. Adelaide suddenly stood up, wild-eyed. I need to get off this plane. Right now. I can't. I can't breathe. This is a medical emergency. Captain Chin didn't move. Ma'am, sit down. I have anxiety. I need my medication. I need to deplane immediately. You need to sit down, Theodore said quietly. Before I add disrupting a flight to the list of charges. Charges? Adelaide's voice was a shriek. You're pressing charges. I haven't decided yet. Theodore pulled out his tablet. But assault is assault. Whether I'm the owner of this airline or just a passenger. The law doesn't distinguish. Adelaide grabbed her purse, clutching it like a life preserver. I'll sue you. For false imprisonment. For emotional distress. For defamation. Albert laughed out loud. Defamation? You defamed yourself, lady. There's video evidence of everything you did. Theodore's phone rang. His head of security. He answered. Talk to me. Sir, we've completed background on Adelaide Morgan. It's worse than we thought. How much worse? She's been involved in 3 separate incidents with law enforcement. All complaints against people of color. A delivery driver she accused of being in her neighborhood suspiciously. A teenager she claimed was casing her house. A waitress she said stole her credit card. Theodore put the call on speaker so Captain Chin could hear. Were any of the accusations substantiated? Not one. All were investigated and dismissed. But the pattern is clear. She weaponizes law enforcement against people of color. Adelaide's face had gone gray. Those were legitimate concerns. I live in an exclusive neighborhood. I have to be careful. Careful, Theodore repeated. Is that what we're calling racism now? His security chief continued. There's more. Social media posts going back years. She's been careful, mostly dog whistles and coded language, but it's there. Posts about urban crime. Complaints about those people moving into her neighborhood. Support for politicians with explicitly racist platforms. Send me everything, Theodore ordered. I want a complete file. Already on its way to your encrypted email. Theodore ended the call. Looked at Adelaide. Still want to claim this was an isolated incident? She had no answer. Just sat there, drowning in the wreckage of her own making. Theodore's phone buzzed with another notification. His PR director. Sir, we need to make a statement. The press is swarming our Atlanta headquarters. They want to know our official position, ***. Theodore typed back, schedule a press conference for when we land. I'll make a statement in person, ***. What about legal, ***. Have them prepare options. I'll review on the flight, ***. He looked up to find every passenger in first class staring at him. Waiting to see what would happen next. I want to be clear about something, Theodore said, his voice carrying through the cabin. What happened here today isn't just about one woman's racism. It's about a system that allows people like her to act with impunity for decades. To abuse service workers. To discriminate against applicants. To weaponize police against innocent people. To assume that anyone who doesn't look like her must have done something wrong. Heads nodded. Phones were still recording. I built Skybridge Airlines because I was tired of fighting that system. Tired of being told I didn't belong. Tired of watching talented people of color passed over for opportunities. I wanted to create something different. Theodore's voice grew stronger. And I will not allow my airline to become a safe haven for the kind of hatred Adelaide Morgan represents. Applause broke out. Started with Albert. Spread through the cabin. Even some of the economy passengers who had crowded near the first-class curtain to watch were clapping. Adelaide sat motionless, tears streaming down her face, her phone still buzzing with the digital documentation of her social death. Theodore's phone rang again. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. Mr. Washington. This is Andrea Martinez. I used to work for Adelaide Morgan. Theodore's attention sharpened. What can I do for you, Ms. Martinez? I saw the video. Everyone has seen the video. And I wanted you to know, she did this to me too. Different slurs, but the same hatred. She made my life hell for 6 months. Underpaid me. Abused me. Finally fired me when I asked for the wages she owed. Andrea's voice shook. I was too scared to fight back. She threatened to report me to immigration if I complained, even though I'm a citizen. She said no one would believe me anyway. Ms. Martinez, would you be willing to make a formal statement? Yes. Yes, I would. I'm tired of being scared of people like her. Theodore took down her contact information. My legal team will reach out. Thank you for coming forward. As he ended the call, another one came through. And another. Former employees. People Adelaide had harassed. Victims who had stayed silent out of fear or shame or the knowledge that no one would believe them over a wealthy white woman. Until now. Until the mask had been ripped off in spectacular, public, undeniable fashion. Theodore looked at Adelaide. How many people did you hurt? How many lives did you damage because you could? Because you thought you'd never face consequences? She didn't answer. Couldn't answer. Captain Chen's tablet chimed. Sir, Delta just confirmed. They've banned her pending investigation. United is following suit. American? Theodore asked. Waiting on final approval, but their security team indicated it's just a formality. Theodore nodded. Make sure our ban goes into the international database too. Every major airline should know exactly who they're dealing with. Now here's what I need from you. If you think people who abuse their privilege deserve to face real consequences, comment number 1 right now. If you've ever been discriminated against or witnessed discrimination like this, hit that like button and let me know in the comments. And subscribe because this story is far from over, and you're going to want to see what happens next. But here's the real question. Adelaide has lost her daughter, her husband, her social standing, and her ability to fly on any major airline. Some people are saying that's enough punishment. Others are saying Theodore should press criminal charges. What do you think? Is this justice, or should there be more consequences? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Because what happened next changed everything. Again. And you won't believe who came forward. Theodore's legal team worked fast. By the time Captain Chen announced they were finally ready for departure, a comprehensive file on Adelaide Morgan had materialized in Theodore's encrypted inbox. He opened it as the plane began to taxi. The first document was a summary. Bullet points of a life built on casual cruelty. Adelaide Morgan. Age, 52. Net worth, estimated 45 million, inherited. Employment, none. Occupation, professional socialite and country club board member, ***. Criminal record, none, charges never filed, despite multiple complaints, ***. Civil complaints, 7 instances, all dismissed or settled out of court, ***. Theodore scrolled deeper. The Willow Creek Country Club had a 23-page document detailing membership applications over the past 15 years. Adelaide's name appeared on the review committee for all of them. Theodore's data analyst had highlighted a pattern in yellow. Every black applicant, rejected. Every Latino applicant, rejected. Every Asian applicant who didn't meet a certain wealth threshold, rejected. The rejection reasons were masterclasses in coded language. Concerns about cultural compatibility. Questions about community integration. Uncertainty regarding lifestyle alignment. But 3 white applicants with drunk driving convictions had been approved during Adelaide's tenure. 2 with histories of domestic violence complaints. 1 who had declared bankruptcy twice. The pattern was undeniable. Theodore opened the next folder. Employment records. His investigators had tracked down 14 former household employees. 9 had agreed to speak on record. Andrea Martinez, housekeeper, 2019 to 2020, she called me a cleaning girl, never by my name. Refused to pay overtime. Accused me of stealing jewelry that later turned up in her own drawer. Never apologized. When I asked for my full wages, she threatened to call immigration. I'm a third-generation American citizen. Grace Johnson, nanny, 2018, she didn't want me around when her friends visited. Said it sent the wrong message to have a black woman caring for her grandchildren. Fired me after 2 months. No severance. No reference. Lily Chen, cook, 2020 to 2021, she made me eat meals in the garage. Not the kitchen. Not the dining room. The garage. Said the smell of my food was too ethnic. I'm trained at Le Cordon Bleu. Story after story. A 15-year chronicle of abuse masked as employment. Theodore forwarded the file to his head of PR, this is why the ban stands. Make sure the press understands the pattern, ***. His phone rang. An Atlanta number he didn't recognize. Mr. Washington. My name is Raymond Foster. I'm the president of the Willow Creek Homeowners Association. I need to speak with you about Adelaide Morgan. Theodore put the call on speaker. Captain Chen leaned closer to listen. I'm listening, Theodore said. That video. What she did to you. I want you to know that's not the first time. Raymond's voice was heavy. We've had complaints about her for years. She's called the police on black families in the neighborhood at least a dozen times. Claims they're suspicious. That they don't belong here. Were any of the calls legitimate? Not one. Families returning from work. Teenagers walking home from school. A mail carrier on his route. Raymond sighed. We've tried to address it. Talked to her. Sent formal warnings. She always has an explanation. Always plays the victim. Says she's just concerned about safety. Why didn't you remove her from the HOA board? Her husband is Bernard Morgan. He's got connections. Threatened to sue us for discrimination if we took action against Adelaide. Said we were targeting her for being concerned about property values. We backed down. Raymond paused. I'm ashamed to admit it, but we backed down. Theodore made a note. Mr. Foster, I may need you to make a formal statement. Whatever you need. I'm tired of watching her get away with it. We all are. As Theodore ended the call, another came through. Then another. The floodgates had opened. A manager from her favorite restaurant, she sent back food if it was delivered by black servers. Made up reasons. Too cold. Too spicy. Wrong presentation. Always the same pattern. Her former personal trainer. Cancelled sessions if there were people of color working out nearby. Said she couldn't concentrate. Eventually banned from the gym for making other members uncomfortable. A saleswoman from Nordstrom refused to let black staff help her. Would wait for white associates even if it meant standing around for 20 minutes. Filed complaints if she had to interact with diverse staff. Each call added another piece to the mosaic. A life of unchecked privilege. Decades of racism so ingrained it had become reflexive. Adelaide sat 3 rows ahead, oblivious to the investigation unfolding around her. She had her phone pressed to her ear, having what sounded like an increasingly desperate conversation with a lawyer. I don't care what it costs. You have to fix this. You have to make it go away. The lawyer's response was apparently not what she wanted to hear. What do you mean there's nothing you can do? I'm paying you. Do your job. Theodore almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Then he remembered the champagne hitting his face. The slurs. The absolute certainty in her voice when she told him he didn't belong. His phone buzzed with a text from his mother. "Baby, I saw the video. Are you okay? Asterisk asterisk. I'm fine, Mom. Promise, asterisk asterisk. That woman. The things she said. I'm so angry I could spit, asterisk asterisk. Don't waste your anger on her. She's already destroyed herself, asterisk asterisk. You built that airline with your own hands. Worked yourself half to death. And she called you a thief, asterisk asterisk. I know. But she's the one who's lost everything. Not me, asterisk asterisk. I'm proud of you. Your father would be too, asterisk asterisk." Theodore felt his chest tighten. His father had died when Theodore was 12. Never got to see the empire his son would build. I wish he could have seen this, asterisk asterisk. He does, baby. He does, asterisk asterisk. Theodore looked out the window. They were at cruising altitude now. Atlanta was 90 minutes away. Captain Chen appeared beside him. "Sir, I wanted to update you. We've received formal confirmation from American Airlines. Adelaide Morgan is now banned from their network as well." "That's all the major carriers," Theodore noted. "Yes, sir. She's effectively grounded unless she wants to drive or take a train." Adelaide must have overheard because she let out a sound like a wounded animal. Her lawyer was still talking on the phone, but she ended the call abruptly. "This is insane," she shouted to no one in particular. "You can't ban me from every airline. That's restraint of trade. It's anti-competitive. It's illegal." Albert, the retired judge, didn't even look up from his newspaper. "Actually, it's perfectly legal. Airlines are private companies. They have the right to refuse service to anyone who violates their terms. You violated those terms. Spectacularly. But I apologized." "You apologized because you got caught," Theodore said quietly. "You apologized because I own the airline. You apologized because the whole world is watching. But you didn't apologize because you understood what you did wrong." Adelaide opened her mouth. Closed it. Opened it again. I do understand. I know it was wrong. Do you?" Theodore stood up, walked over to her row. Looked down at her. "Tell me what you learned." "I learned that I shouldn't, that it's wrong to." She struggled for words. "That I need to be more careful about who you insult." Theodore finished. "That's what you learned? To be more careful. Not to be less racist, but to hide it better." Adelaide's face flushed. "I'm not a racist." The entire cabin erupted in disbelieving laughter. "You threw a drink at a black man and called him racial slurs," Adrian pointed out. "That's literally the definition of racism." "But I didn't mean." "You meant every word," Theodore interrupted. "You meant it when you said I didn't belong in first class. You meant it when you called me a thief. You meant it when you used that slur. The only thing you regret is getting caught." Amber, the flight attendant, approached carefully. "Mr. Washington. I have something I'd like to say. If that's okay." Theodore gestured for her to continue. "I've been a flight attendant for 7 years. And I've dealt with passengers like Adelaide more times than I can count." Amber's voice shook but stayed steady. "Passengers who refuse to take drinks from me because I'm black. Who ask if there's someone else who can serve them. Who complain to my supervisors that I'm aggressive or unprofessional, when all I did was smile and offer them peanuts." Other flight attendants had gathered near the galley, listening. "We're trained to smile through it," Amber continued. "To be professional. To not make waves. Because passengers like Adelaide, they write complaint letters. They get us fired. They have the power, and they know it." Theodore listened, his jaw tight. When I saw you board today, Mr. Washington, I recognized you from the company newsletter. And I thought about warning you that Adelaide had been making comments. But I didn't. Because I wanted to see how you'd handle it. I wanted to see if you'd protect your employees from passengers like her. And? Theodore asked quietly. You did. By banning her. By making it clear that racism won't be tolerated. You protected every flight attendant who's ever been abused by someone like her. Amber's eyes were bright with tears. Thank you. Thank you for standing up for us. The other flight attendants applauded. Softly at first, then louder. Adelaide was crying again. I never meant to hurt anyone. I swear I didn't. Intent doesn't matter, Theodore said. Impact does. And the impact of your actions has been hurting people for decades. Today, it stops. His phone buzzed. His head of PR. Press conference set for 2 hours after landing. Atlanta Convention Center. Every major outlet will be there, asterisk asterisk. Talking points prepared, asterisk asterisk. Yes. But sir, they're going to ask if you're pressing charges, asterisk asterisk. And what are our options, asterisk asterisk. Assault. Hate crime enhancement. Could be looking at jail time, asterisk asterisk. Theodore looked at Adelaide. Broken. Sobbing. Her entire life in ruins. I'll decide after I speak with my legal team, he typed back. Because consequences were important. But so was the message he wanted to send. And Theodore Washington had been playing chess while Adelaide Morgan was playing checkers. She just didn't know it yet. The seatbelt sign had been off for 20 minutes, but the cabin felt like a pressure cooker. Word had spread through the plane. Economy passengers kept finding excuses to walk past first class, phones out, trying to catch a glimpse of the woman from the viral video. Flight attendant Aaron finally had to make an announcement. Ladies and gentlemen, we ask that you please remain in your assigned cabin areas. Anyone found violating this policy will be asked to return to their seats immediately. It didn't help much. The curtain between first class and economy kept getting pulled aside. Faces peered through. Some sympathetic to Theodore. Others curious about Adelaide. A few actually tried to confront her directly. You should be ashamed of yourself, a woman shouted from behind the curtain before Aaron gently but firmly guided her back. Theodore watched Adelaide shrink into her seat, trying to make herself invisible. She had pulled her cardigan over her head like a hood. Sunglasses on despite being inside the aircraft. The classic celebrity attempt at anonymity, except everyone already knew exactly who she was. Water, please, Adelaide croaked to a passing flight attendant. The attendant walked right past her. Excuse me, I asked for water. Another flight attendant passed. Also ignored her. This is ridiculous. I'm a paying passenger. You have to serve me. Theodore didn't intervene. Didn't need to. His crew was making their own statement. Finally, Amber approached with a plastic cup of water. Not the glass service offered to other passengers. Plastic. Room temperature. No ice. No lemon. No napkin. Adelaide took it with shaking hands. Thank you, she whispered. Amber said nothing. Just walked away. Albert folded his newspaper, finally setting it aside. You know what strikes me? Not once have you actually apologized for the right thing. Adelaide looked up, confused. I apologized. You apologized for not knowing who he was, Albert clarified. You said you were sorry you threw champagne at the owner of the airline. But you never apologized for the racism itself. For the slurs. For the assumption that a black man in first class must have done something wrong. Adelaide's mouth worked soundlessly. You're sorry you got caught, Albert continued. Sorry there are consequences. But you're not sorry for the hatred. Are you? I don't hate anyone. Adelaide's voice climbed. I'm not a bad person. Bad people never think they are, Theodore said quietly. He had remained in his original seat, laptop open, appearing to work. But he was listening to everything. They always have justifications. Explanations. Reasons why their bigotry is actually something else. Common sense. Caution. Concern. A young black boy, maybe 8 years old, appeared in the aisle. His mother trailed behind him, looking apologetic. I'm sorry, he insisted on, she began. It's fine, Theodore said, smiling at the boy. Are you really Theodore Washington? The boy asked, eyes wide. I am. My dad says you're a hero. He says you built this airline from nothing. He says you're proof that we can do anything. Theodore felt something tight loosen in his chest. What's your name? Adrian. Adrian Foster. Well, Adrian Foster, your dad is right. You can do anything. As long as you work hard, stay honest, and never let anyone tell you that you don't belong somewhere. Adrian's eyes cut to Adelaide, then back to Theodore. That lady said mean things to you. She did. My mom says people who say mean things are usually scared inside. Theodore glanced at Adrian's mother, who looked embarrassed. But also proud. Your mom is very wise, Theodore said. Fear makes people do ugly things. But it's not an excuse. Understand? Adrian nodded seriously. Can I take a picture with you? To show my dad. Of course. Theodore stood, posed with Adrian, shook his small hand. Watched the boy bounce back to economy with his mother, radiating excitement. Adelaide was watching. Theodore could feel her eyes on him. That could have been your grandson, Theodore said without looking at her. If you hadn't taught your daughter that people who look like that boy are somehow less than. If you hadn't spent decades spreading poison disguised as propriety. My grandson is, Adelaide stopped. Is what? Theodore turned to face her. White. Is that what you were going to say? Adelaide said nothing. Your daughter is marrying into a black family, Theodore said. It wasn't a question. He had received the information from his background check. Jeremy Williams. His mother is Dr. Sharon Williams, one of Atlanta's most prominent cardiac surgeons. His father is David Williams, retired Air Force colonel. Adelaide's face had gone pale. Distinguished family. Impressive credentials. But I'm guessing you weren't thrilled about the match, were you? That's none of your business. It became my business when you assaulted me on my airline, Theodore replied. So let me guess how this went. Your daughter fell in love. Brought Jeremy home. You smiled through gritted teeth. Made polite conversation. All while hating every second of it. Adelaide's silence was confirmation. I wonder what Jeremy's parents will think, Theodore mused. When they see the video. When they realize their son was about to marry into a family where the matriarch throws drinks at black men and calls them slurs. They've already pulled out of the wedding, Adelaide whispered. Jeremy called off the engagement an hour ago. The cabin went silent. Your daughter lost her fiancé? Adrian asked from across the aisle. Adelaide nodded, tears streaming down her face. Because of what you did? Another nod. Good, Adrian said flatly. No one should have to marry into a family like yours. His wife, Adriana, squeezed his hand but didn't contradict him. Theodore's phone buzzed. His legal team. We have a problem. Adelaide's lawyer is threatening to sue for emotional distress. Claims the public humiliation has caused her severe psychological harm, ***. Theodore typed back, let them sue. Discovery will be fun. We'll subpoena every person she's ever discriminated against, asterisk asterisk. Are you sure? It could get messy, asterisk asterisk. It's already messy. Let's make sure the mess lands where it belongs, asterisk asterisk. He looked up to find Adelaide watching him. Are you going to sue me? She asked. Voice small. Defeated. I haven't decided yet, Theodore replied honestly. My lawyers are preparing options. What do you want from me? Adelaide's voice broke. I've lost everything. My daughter hates me. My husband is divorcing me. My friends won't return my calls. I can't even fly anywhere. What more do you want? Theodore leaned back in his seat. Studied her. Saw not a person but a symbol. A representation of every obstacle he had ever faced. Every person who had told him he didn't belong. Every assumption that he must have cheated or stolen or lucked into his success. I want you to understand, Theodore said quietly. Really understand. Not just that you got caught. Not just that there are consequences. But that what you did was wrong. Fundamentally, morally wrong. I do understand. No, you don't. Theodore's voice was firm. You understand that you're suffering. That's not the same thing. Understanding would mean recognizing the suffering you've caused others. The housekeeper you threatened. The gardener you falsely accused. The families you harassed. The children you made feel unsafe in their own neighborhood. Adelaide was sobbing openly now. It would mean acknowledging that your privilege allowed you to hurt people for decades without consequence. That the system protected you. That you used your wealth and your race and your connections to escape accountability over and over again. I never meant. Stop saying that. Theodore's voice cut like a whip. Intention doesn't erase impact. You hurt people. Damaged lives. Perpetuated systemic racism. And the only reason you're facing consequences now is because I happen to be the one you targeted. If I had been just a regular passenger, you would have gotten away with it. Again. The truth of it hung in the air like smoke. Captain Chen's voice came over the intercom. Ladies and gentlemen, we're beginning our initial descent into Atlanta. Please return to your seats and ensure your seatbelts are fastened. Theodore pulled out his phone. Typed a message to his PR team. I've made my decision. I'm pressing charges. Full extent of the law. Make sure the press knows this isn't just about me. It's about every person of color who has been assaulted, abused, or discriminated against by people like Adelaide Morgan, asterisk asterisk. Are you certain, sir? There will be backlash. People will say you're being vindictive, asterisk asterisk. Let them say it. I'm done watching people like her face no consequences, asterisk asterisk. He hit send. Looked out the window. Atlanta was coming into view. The city where he had built his empire. Where he had proved everyone wrong. Where Adelaide Morgan was about to face justice. Finally. The plane continued its descent. Theodore closed his laptop. Straightened his champagne-stained suit. Prepared for what came next. Behind him, Adelaide Morgan sobbed quietly into her hands. Ahead of him, the press conference waited. And Theodore Washington was ready to change the conversation about racism in America. One viral video at a time. The wheels hit the tarmac with a jolt that made Adelaide flinch. Through the window, Theodore could see news vans lining the perimeter of the airport. Helicopters circled overhead. This wasn't a normal landing. This was a spectacle. Captain Chen's voice crackled through the intercom. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Atlanta. Please remain seated until the aircraft has come to a complete stop and the seatbelt sign has been turned off. Mr. Washington has requested that first-class passengers deplane first today. Thank you for your patience. Theodore stood, gathering his belongings with deliberate calm. His champagne-stained suit was ruined, but he wore it like armor now. Evidence. Proof. The gate door opened. Theodore could see through the window. At least 15 uniformed Atlanta Police Department officers waited. Behind them, airport security. Behind them, what looked like half the media outlets in Georgia. Mr. Washington. A senior officer stepped forward as Theodore exited the plane. I'm Captain Lisa Rodriguez, APD. We've been briefed on the situation. Theodore shook her hand. Thank you for responding, Captain. Ma'am. Captain Rodriguez turned to Adelaide, who had frozen in the jetway, face white as paper. Adelaide Morgan. I need you to come with me, please. Am I under arrest? Adelaide's voice was barely audible. Not at this moment. But we need to take your statement. Mr. Washington is filing charges for assault and, she consulted her notes, assault with hate crime enhancement. Adelaide swayed. For a moment, Theodore thought she might faint. But she steadied herself against the jetway wall. I want my lawyer. That's your right, ma'am. Captain Rodriguez gestured to 2 uniformed officers. Please escort Ms. Morgan to booking. Booking? Adelaide's voice climbed to a shriek. You can't arrest me. I didn't do anything. Ma'am, there's video evidence of you assaulting Mr. Washington. Multiple witness statements. This is standard procedure. The officers moved forward. Adelaide backed up, hands raised. Don't touch me. Do you know who I am? Do you know who my husband is? Captain Rodriguez's expression didn't change. Your husband filed for separation 3 hours ago, ma'am. According to his attorney, he's cooperating fully with our investigation and will not be posting bail. The fight went out of Adelaide like air from a punctured balloon. She allowed the officers to guide her down the jetway, through the terminal, past the cameras. The press erupted. Shouted questions. Camera flashes like lightning. Ms. Morgan. Do you have a statement? Are you sorry for what you did? What do you say to people calling you the face of white privilege? Adelaide tried to cover her face with her hands. Didn't work. The cameras caught everything. Every tear. Every trembling step. Every moment of her perp walk that would be replayed on every news channel in America. Theodore watched impassively. Then turned to face the press himself. Mr. Washington. A reporter thrust a microphone toward him. Can you comment on? I'll be making a full statement at a press conference in 2 hours, Theodore said calmly. Atlanta Convention Center. All media are welcome. Until then, I have no comment. He walked through the terminal with Captain Rodriguez at his side, airport security clearing a path. Behind him, the other first-class passengers followed, phones out, documenting everything. Albert caught up to him. Mr. Washington, I wanted to say, I'm a retired federal judge. Whatever you need from me, testimony, statements, anything. I'm at your disposal. Thank you, Judge. Albert Patterson. Served on the bench for 32 years. I know exactly what I witnessed, and I'll make sure it's documented properly. Theodore shook his hand. Your testimony will be crucial. Adrian and Adriana approached next. We have video too, Adrian said. From a different angle than what's already online. Might show details the other footage missed. Send it to this email. Theodore pulled out a business card. My legal team will review it. Young Adrian Foster was there too, with his mother. The boy looked up at Theodore with wide eyes. You're really pressing charges? Adrian asked. I am. Good. The 8-year-old nodded seriously. My mom says if bad people don't face consequences, they just keep being bad. Theodore crouched down to Adrian's eye level. Your mom is absolutely right. And Adrian? Don't ever let anyone make you feel like you don't belong somewhere. Ever. Understand? Yes, sir. Theodore stood, ruffled the boy's hair, and continued walking. Police station. 2 hours later ***. The booking room at Atlanta PD was nothing like Adelaide had ever experienced. Fluorescent lights. Plastic chairs. The smell of industrial cleaner and desperation. She sat at a metal table, her lawyer finally present. Chester Hamilton, 63, one of Atlanta's most expensive criminal defense attorneys. Don't say anything, Chester advised for the 4th time. Let me handle this. But I need to explain. No. Chester's voice was firm. You need to stay silent. Every word you say makes this worse. Captain Rodriguez entered with a thick file. Set it on the table with a heavy thud. Ms. Morgan. We've reviewed the evidence. Video footage from 5 different sources. Witness statements from 17 passengers. Flight crew testimony. And Mr. Washington's formal complaint. Chester leaned forward. My client is willing to settle this civilly. No criminal charges. She'll pay for the damaged suit, issue a public apology. Mr. Washington has declined settlement, Captain Rodriguez interrupted. He wants to proceed with criminal charges. Adelaide made a sound like a wounded animal. On what grounds? Chester demanded. She threw a drink. It's simple assault at worst. Misdemeanor. Fine and community service. Assault with hate crime enhancement, Captain Rodriguez corrected. The racial slurs she used elevate this to a felony. Georgia law is very clear on this. Chester's confident expression faltered. That's excessive. My client was emotional. Under stress. She made a mistake. Your client has a documented pattern of racist behavior spanning 15 years. Captain Rodriguez opened the file. We've been contacted by 9 former employees. 4 neighbors. 2 restaurant staff. A personal trainer. And a gardener she falsely accused of theft. Adelaide's face had gone gray. We've also been alerted to 3 separate incidents where your client weaponized law enforcement against people of color. Filed false reports. Made baseless accusations. Those were investigated and dismissed. Because the victims were too scared to pursue charges. Because your client had wealth and connections. Captain Rodriguez's eyes were hard. But this time, the victim is Theodore Washington. A billionaire with resources that match yours. Someone who can't be intimidated or bought off. Chester stood. I need to consult with my client privately. Take your time. Captain Rodriguez left the room. The moment the door closed, Chester rounded on Adelaide. What the hell were you thinking? Theodore Washington. You assaulted Theodore Washington. I didn't know who he was. That's not a defense. It makes it worse. Chester ran his hands through his hair. Do you understand the position you're in? You assaulted one of the most successful black entrepreneurs in America. On his own airline. While hurling racial slurs. In front of cameras. Fix it, Adelaide demanded. That's what I pay you for. I can't fix this. Chester's voice rose. This isn't a speeding ticket or a DUI. You committed a hate crime. There's video evidence. 17 witnesses. You're going viral on every platform. There's nothing to fix. Adelaide stared at him. So what do I do? Chester sat down heavily. Plead guilty. Hope for a lenient judge. Pray that Washington doesn't push for maximum sentencing. Guilty. Adelaide's voice was a whisper. I'll have a criminal record. You'll have a criminal record either way. Fight this, and you'll lose. The evidence is overwhelming. At least if you plead guilty and show remorse, you might avoid jail time. Jail. Adelaide felt the room spin. I can't go to jail. I can't. Then you should have thought of that before you assaulted someone, Chester said bluntly. Atlanta Convention Center, press conference ***. Theodore stood at the podium, every camera in Georgia pointed at him. His stained suit was gone, replaced with a fresh one his assistant had brought. But photos of the original had already been distributed to the press. Thank you all for coming, Theodore began. I'm going to make a brief statement, then take questions. The room fell silent. This afternoon, I was assaulted by a passenger on my own airline. Adelaide Morgan threw champagne in my face and used multiple racial slurs, all while demanding I be removed from first class. She did this because she saw a black man in a premium seat and assumed I didn't belong there. Cameras clicked. Reporters scribbled notes. I want to be clear. This incident isn't about me personally. I'm a billionaire. I own the airline. I have resources and power that most victims of racism don't have. But think about every black person who has been in my position without those resources. Every person of color who has been assaulted, discriminated against, or abused by people like Adelaide Morgan and had no recourse. Theodore's voice strengthened. That's why I'm pressing charges. Not for revenge. For accountability. To send a message that this behavior has consequences. That wealth and privilege don't protect you from justice. A reporter raised her hand. Mr. Washington, some people are saying you're being too harsh. That Ms. Morgan has already lost her family, her social standing. She's lost those things because of her own actions, Theodore interrupted. I didn't make her throw that drink. I didn't make her use those slurs. She did that herself. And consequences are not cruelty. They're justice. Another reporter, what about criticism that you're using your wealth and power to punish someone who made a mistake? I'm using my wealth and power to do what ordinary people of color can't do. Fight back. Hold someone accountable. If I had been just another passenger, Adelaide Morgan would have faced zero consequences. She would have flown home, complained to her friends about those people in first class, and continued her pattern of abuse. Theodore leaned into the microphone. I'm announcing today that Skybridge Airlines is launching a $50 million scholarship fund for students of color pursuing careers in aviation. I'm also implementing mandatory anti-racism training for every single employee. And I'm partnering with civil rights organizations to create industry-wide standards for addressing discrimination. Applause erupted. Adelaide Morgan's racism didn't happen in a vacuum. It happened because systems allowed it. Protected it. Enabled it. Today, we start changing those systems. A reporter from CNN, have you spoken with Ms. Morgan since landing? No. And I don't plan to. If she apologizes publicly, would you drop the charges? No. Theodore's voice was firm. Apologies are meaningless without accountability. She's sorry she got caught. That's not the same as being sorry for what she did. The questions continued for an hour. Theodore answered each one with calm precision. Never defensive. Never angry. Just factual. When it was over, his PR director approached. Sir, that was perfect. Every outlet in the country will run this. Theodore nodded. Good. Let's make sure this matters. Let's make sure this changes something. Because Adelaide Morgan was just one person. But she represented millions of others. People who thought their privilege protected them. Who thought racism was consequence-free. Theodore Washington was about to prove them wrong. 3 months later, the courtroom was packed. Every seat filled. News cameras lined the back wall. Sketch artists furiously capturing the scene. Outside, protesters held signs. Some supporting Theodore. Others claiming he had gone too far. Adelaide sat at the defense table, barely recognizable. Gone were the designer clothes and expensive jewelry. She wore a simple navy dress. No makeup. Hair pulled back. Her lawyer had insisted. Make her look humble. Sympathetic. Sorry. It wasn't working. The prosecution had spent 2 days presenting their case. Video evidence played on loop. Adelaide throwing champagne. Adelaide screaming slurs. Adelaide demanding Theodore be removed. Then came the witnesses. Albert Patterson, retired federal judge, described every detail. She called him a thief. Said people like him don't belong in first class. When he remained calm, it seemed to infuriate her more. Adrian and Adriana from row 3. We recorded everything. We knew someone needed to document it. Amber, the flight attendant. I recognized Mr. Washington immediately. I wanted to warn him, but I also wanted to see if our company's values were real. If he would really protect employees like me from passengers like her. Then came Adelaide's former employees. Andrea Martinez, the housekeeper, took the stand with shaking hands. She called me terrible names. Threatened me. Made me work in conditions that were degrading. Grace Johnson, the nanny. She told me to stay out of sight when her friends visited. Said having a black nanny sent the wrong message about her values. Lily Chen, the cook. I have a degree from Le Cordon Bleu. I've cooked for presidents. And she made me eat in the garage like an animal. Each testimony built on the last. A mountain of evidence. A pattern impossible to deny. The defense tried. Chester Hamilton was good at his job. He painted Adelaide as a woman under stress. Going through a difficult time. He highlighted her charitable donations. Her volunteer work. But then the prosecution played her social media posts. Screenshots going back years. Complaints about urban crime. Coded language about those people. Support for politicians with explicitly discriminatory platforms. This wasn't a bad day, the prosecutor argued. This was a lifetime of racism finally exposed. Then Theodore took the stand. He wore a simple black suit. Spoke clearly. Calmly. No anger. Just facts. I've faced discrimination my entire life, Theodore began. Teachers who assumed I was less intelligent because of my skin color. Professors who questioned if I deserved my scholarship. Colleagues who assumed I was hired for diversity, not competence. The courtroom was silent. I built Skybridge Airlines because I was tired of fighting for space in rooms where people assumed I didn't belong. I wanted to create something where talent mattered more than race. Theodore's voice was steady. When Adelaide Morgan threw that drink, she represented every person who ever told me I didn't deserve my success. Every obstacle. Every assumption. Every barrier. The prosecutor asked, why press charges? Why not just ban her from your airline? Because banning her solves my problem. Pressing charges sends a message. That racism has consequences. That assault is assault, regardless of the victim's race. That privilege doesn't grant immunity from justice. Theodore looked directly at Adelaide for the first time. I'm not pressing charges for myself. I'm doing it for every person of color who couldn't fight back. Every housekeeper she abused. Every neighbor she harassed. Every victim who was too scared or too poor to seek justice. In the gallery, Theodore's mother wept silently. Next to her, young Adrian Foster sat with his parents, watching his hero testify. The defense called Adelaide to the stand. Chester had coached her extensively. Show remorse. Accept responsibility. Humanize yourself. Adelaide took the oath. Sat down. Looked at the jury. I made a terrible mistake, she began, voice shaking. I was having a difficult day. My daughter's wedding was coming up. I was stressed. And I reacted inappropriately. The prosecutor stood for cross-examination. Ms. Morgan, you say you were stressed. Did that stress also cause you to underpay your housekeepers? That's not. Did stress cause you to call the police on black families in your neighborhood? I was concerned about safety. Did stress cause you to reject every black applicant to your country club for 15 years? That wasn't just me. Answer the question. Did you vote against every black applicant? Adelaide's mouth trembled. Yes. But. No further questions. The trial lasted 5 days. The jury deliberated for 2 hours. Guilty on all counts. The judge, a black woman named Carmen Hayes, looked down at Adelaide with an expression carved from stone. Ms. Morgan, the evidence presented in this case reveals a pattern of racist behavior spanning decades. You have abused people of color. Discriminated against them. Weaponized systems of power against them. All while facing no consequences. Adelaide was crying. Chester had his hand on her shoulder. The court finds your remorse to be limited to regret over being caught, not genuine understanding of the harm you've caused. Judge Hayes paused. You are hereby sentenced to 6 months in the Fulton County Jail. Upon release, you will serve 2 years of probation, during which you will complete a racism intervention program and 1,000 hours of community service in predominantly black neighborhoods. Adelaide let out a sound like a wounded animal. Additionally, you will issue a public apology, not for getting caught, but for the specific harm you've caused to specific individuals. This apology will be reviewed by the court before publication. Judge Hayes looked directly at Adelaide. Perhaps in 6 months, you'll begin to understand what you've spent your whole life refusing to acknowledge. That black people are human beings deserving of dignity and respect. That privilege is not a shield. That actions have consequences. The gavel fell. Adelaide collapsed, sobbing. Bailiffs moved forward to take her into custody. In the gallery, Theodore sat perfectly still. No triumph on his face. No satisfaction. Just quiet recognition that justice, however imperfect, had been served. As Adelaide was led out of the courtroom in handcuffs, camera flashes exploded like fireworks. She tried to hide her face. Failed. The image would be on every front page tomorrow. The face of privilege, finally facing consequences. Outside the courthouse, Theodore gave a brief statement to the press. Justice has been served. Not just for me, but for every person Adelaide Morgan harmed over her lifetime. This verdict sends a clear message: racism is not acceptable. Assault is not acceptable. And wealth cannot buy immunity from accountability. He paused. I hope Adelaide uses her time in custody to reflect. To learn. To grow. Real change is possible, but only if someone is willing to do the difficult work of examining their own prejudices. A reporter asked, "Do you forgive her?" Theodore considered the question. Forgiveness isn't mine to grant or withhold. I'm not her victim. I'm just the person who finally had the power to hold her accountable. The real question is whether she'll ever forgive herself for the person she's been. With that, Theodore walked away, his mother on one side, his legal team on the other. Behind him, Adelaide Morgan was processed into the Fulton County Jail, where she would spend the next 6 months learning what life was like without privilege to protect her. The lesson was just beginning. Theodore Washington stood at the podium of MIT's Aerospace Engineering Department, addressing a room full of students. 50 of them were recipients of the Skybridge Scholarship Fund. 50 young people of color who would have the opportunities he'd had to fight for. 5 years from now, Theodore said, looking out at the eager faces. Some of you will be designing aircraft. Some will be pilots. Some will be running airlines of your own. And when you succeed, people will still question whether you deserve it. They'll still make assumptions about how you got there. He smiled. Prove them wrong. Every single time. Applause filled the room. Among the students was Adrian Foster, now 9 years old, attending on a special invitation with his parents. After the speech, Theodore's assistant Alice approached. "Sir, your 2 o'clock is here." "Already?" "She's early. Been waiting in the lobby for 20 minutes. Theodore nodded. "Give me 5 minutes, then bring her up." He tidied his office, uncertain why he felt nervous. A year ago, he would have said nothing Adelaide Morgan did could surprise him anymore. He was about to learn otherwise. The door opened. Adelaide walked in, and Theodore barely recognized her. Gone was the entitled socialite. The woman before him wore simple jeans and a volunteer t-shirt from the West Side Community Center. No jewelry. No designer labels. Her face looked older, tired, but somehow more real than it had ever looked in first class. "Mr. Washington." Adelaide's voice was quiet. "Thank you for agreeing to see me. I almost didn't." Theodore gestured to a chair. "Sit." She sat, hands folded in her lap. "I'm sure you're wondering why I'm here." "I am." Adelaide took a deep breath. "I'm not here to ask for anything. I know you owe me nothing. I just wanted you to know. I've changed. Really changed. And I wanted to thank you." Theodore raised an eyebrow. "Thank me? For pressing charges. For not letting me get away with it." Adelaide's eyes were clear. Direct. "In jail, I had a cellmate named Andrea. A black woman serving time for a crime she didn't commit. She had every reason to hate me. But instead, she talked to me. Shared her story. Made me listen to what it's like to be black in America." Theodore said nothing. Just listened. "After I got out, I started the community service. At the West Side Center. I expected to hate it. To resent every minute." Adelaide's voice softened. "But something happened. I met people. Real people, not the caricatures I built in my head. I heard their stories. Their struggles. Their dreams." She pulled out her phone, showed Theodore photos. Adelaide serving meals at a soup kitchen. Reading to children at an after-school program. Painting a community center with a group of teenagers. "I've been doing this for 8 months now. Not because the court ordered it. I finished those hours 4 months ago. I'm doing it because I want to. Because I need to." Theodore studied the photos. "Words are easy. Pictures are easy. How do I know this is real?" "You don't." Adelaide met his eyes. "All I can do is show you through my actions. I can't undo the harm I caused. I can't erase 30 years of racism. But I can try to do better. To be better." She pulled out a folder. "These are letters. From people I hurt. Andrew Martinez, the gardener. I tracked him down. Apologized. Helped him restart his business. Gave him references. Real ones." Theodore took the folder. Opened it. Scanned the letters. "Adelaide contacted me 6 months ago. At first, I didn't want to talk to her. But she was persistent. She apologized. Not a fake apology. A real one. She helped me get new clients. Testified on my behalf when I applied for a business loan. I don't know if I forgive her. But I see her trying. That matters. Andrew Martinez ***. Another letter, from Andrea Martinez, the housekeeper. She paid me everything she owed, plus interest. Wrote letters to the labor board on my behalf. Got me a job at one of her friend's companies, with a contract that protects my rights. I still don't like her. But I respect that she's doing the work. Andrea Martinez ***. Theodore read through all 15 letters. Each one telling a similar story. Adelaide reaching out. Making amends. Doing real, tangible work to repair harm. I'm working with the Willow Creek Country Club, Adelaide continued. We've changed the membership policies. In the last 6 months, we've accepted 12 new members of color. I personally advocated for each one. Why? Theodore asked. Why do all this? Adelaide was quiet for a moment. Because I woke up. For the first time in my life, I saw myself clearly. And I hated what I saw. I hated the person I'd been. The harm I'd caused. The privilege I'd weaponized. Tears slipped down her cheeks. My daughter still won't speak to me. My ex-husband remarried. Most of my old friends won't return my calls. I lost everything. And I deserve to lose it. She wiped her eyes. But in losing it, I found something else. A purpose. A chance to actually matter in a positive way. To use whatever privilege I have left to help instead of hurt. Theodore set the folder down. I don't forgive you. I know. I probably never will. I understand. But. Theodore paused, choosing his words carefully. I acknowledge what you're doing. Real change isn't easy. It's uncomfortable and painful, and most people never do it. The fact that you're trying, that matters. Adelaide nodded, more tears falling. Keep doing the work, Theodore said. Not for me. Not for forgiveness. But because it's right. Because people deserve better than who you were. I will. Adelaide stood. Thank you for seeing me. I know you didn't have to. As she turned to leave, Theodore spoke again. Adelaide. She turned back. Your daughter. Amber. Adelaide flinched at the name. She works in Atlanta. I've met her. She's a social worker. Does incredible work with at-risk youth. Theodore pulled out a business card. She's speaking at a conference I'm sponsoring next month. On systemic racism in child services. You should come. Sit in the back. Listen. Adelaide took the card with shaking hands. She won't want to see me. Probably not. But she might want to see that you're listening. Learning. That the woman who raised her is becoming someone worth knowing. Fresh tears. Thank you. Don't thank me. Just keep doing the work. After Adelaide left, Alice entered. Sir, your next appointment. Give me a few minutes. Theodore stood at his office window, looking out over campus. Thinking about the long, strange journey from that first-class cabin to this moment. His phone buzzed. A message from the Westside Community Center director. Adelaide Morgan has been exceptional. Consistent. Humble. Whatever you said to her a year ago, it worked. She's genuinely changed, ***. Theodore smiled slightly. He hadn't changed Adelaide. Consequences had. Accountability had. The hard, painful work of confronting one's own prejudice had. But he'd been the catalyst. The person who finally said no. Who finally made privilege face justice. 3 weeks later, Community Center fundraiser ***. Theodore walked through the Westside Community Center, impressed by the turnover. The facility had been renovated. New computers. Fresh paint. A garden where kids could learn to grow vegetables. Adelaide was there, working the food line, serving meals to families. No cameras. No publicity. Just quiet service. Young Adrian Foster ran up to Theodore, now taller, still full of energy. "Mr. Washington. Did you see the new computer lab? We have 20 computers now." "I did see it. Pretty impressive. My mom says you donated them." Theodore smiled. "Your mom is very observant." He watched Adelaide interact with the families. Gentle. Patient. Genuinely engaged. A grandmother brought her children through the line. Adelaide served them with a warm smile, asked about their day, remembered their names. The woman who had thrown champagne in his face seemed like a different person entirely. Later, as the event wound down, Adelaide approached Theodore carefully. "I didn't know you'd be here," she said. "I sponsor this center. I'm here every month. I know. I've seen you. I always leave before you notice." Theodore studied her. "Why?" "Because I didn't want you to think I was doing this for show. That I was trying to impress you or earn your approval." "Are you?" "No." Adelaide's answer was immediate. Firm. "I'm doing this because it's right. Because these people deserve better than what this world gives them. Because I spent 30 years being part of the problem, and I want to spend whatever time I have left being part of the solution." Theodore nodded slowly. "My mother wants to meet you." Adelaide's eyes widened. "What? My mother? She saw your name on the volunteer roster. Asked if you were the woman from the plane. I said yes. She said she wanted to talk to you." "Why would she want to meet me? After what I did to you?" "Because," Theodore chose his words carefully, "my mother believes in redemption. She believes people can change if they're willing to do the work. She wants to see for herself if you're really doing it." Adelaide looked terrified. "I don't know if I can face her." "Then you're not ready." Theodore started to walk away. "Wait." Adelaide's voice stopped him. "I'll do it. Whatever she wants to say to me, I'll listen. I owe you both that much." 2 days later ***. Theodore's mother, Dorothy Washington, sat in her living room, hands folded, watching Adelaide perched nervously on the edge of the sofa. "My son thinks you've changed," Dorothy said without preamble. "Are you going to prove him right or prove him wrong?" Adelaide swallowed hard. "I hope to prove him right, Mrs. Washington. Hope isn't enough. Hope is passive. Change is active. You're right. I am changing. Actively. Every day." Dorothy studied her with eyes that had seen 70 years of American racism. "You hurt my son. You humiliated him. Called him names I won't repeat. I know. I'm so. Let me finish." Dorothy's voice was gentle but firm. "You did to him what people have been doing to black folks for centuries. Assumed. Judged. Attacked. Based on nothing but skin color." Adelaide nodded, tears already falling. "But you know what I see when I look at you now?" Dorothy leaned forward. "I see someone trying. Genuinely trying. Not performing. Not pretending. Actually doing the work." Adelaide looked up, surprised. "That doesn't mean I forgive you. Forgiveness isn't something you earn. It's something you receive as grace, if it comes at all." Dorothy's eyes were kind but uncompromising. "But I respect the effort. I respect someone who looks at their own ugliness and decides to be better." "I don't know how to be better," Adelaide admitted. "I'm learning. But it's hard. I catch myself thinking old thoughts. Making old assumptions. I have to actively fight against 30 years of programming." "That's exactly right. It is a fight. Every single day. But that's what change looks like. Not a single moment of enlightenment. Daily, difficult work. Dorothy stood. Come with me. She led Adelaide to her garden. Beautiful roses in full bloom. You know what it takes to grow roses in Georgia clay? Dorothy asked. Adelaide shook her head. Constant work. Breaking up the hard ground. Adding nutrients. Pruning. Protecting from pests. Some people think you just plant and they grow. But that's not how it works. Dorothy touched a perfect red bloom. You're like this garden. You've got decades of hard, rocky soil. Old roots that need to be dug up. It's going to take years of constant work to grow something beautiful. She looked at Adelaide. But I believe you can do it. I believe anyone can, if they're willing to put in the work. Adelaide broke down crying. Dorothy let her. Just stood there in the garden, patient as the roses. Final scene, 6 months later ***. Theodore boarded a Skybridge flight to New York. Routine business trip. He settled into first class, pulled out his laptop. The cabin filled up around him. Diverse passengers. Mixed races. Different backgrounds. All treated with equal respect by a crew that reflected America's actual diversity. A young black girl, maybe 7, settled into the seat next to him with her parents across the aisle. Excuse me, she said politely. Are you Theodore Washington? Theodore smiled. I am. My teacher told us about you. About how you built this airline. About what happened with that mean lady. Your teacher sounds smart. She says you're a hero. Theodore shook his head gently. I'm not a hero. I just refuse to accept being treated badly. That's not heroic. That's basic self-respect. But you changed things, the girl insisted. My teacher says because of you, people can't be mean to others without consequences anymore. Theodore considered this. I hope that's true. But changing people's hearts. That's harder than changing policies. The flight took off smoothly. Theodore worked on his laptop. Reviewed reports. Approved expansions. His phone buzzed with a message from Alice. FYI, Adelaide Morgan just completed her 2-year probation. No violations. Community service hours, 2,847. Required was 1,000***. Theodore smiled slightly. Typed back, good for her. Another message appeared. From Adelaide herself. I know you don't want to hear from me. But I wanted you to know. My daughter and I had coffee today. First time in 2 years. She's still angry. Still hurt. But she's willing to try. Thank you for giving me the push to reach out, ***. Theodore considered not responding. Then typed. I'm glad. Keep doing the work, ***. He looked out the window. Atlanta disappeared below. The city where everything had changed. Where a moment of racism had been met with accountability instead of tolerance. Theodore Washington had built an empire. Had proved everyone wrong. Had shown that a black man from the south side of Chicago could create something billion-dollar big and beautiful. But his greatest achievement wasn't the airline. It was the precedent. That racism had consequences. That privilege wasn't immunity. That change was possible, even for people who seemed irredeemable. The plane climbed higher. First class was full. Economy was full. People of every background, traveling together, treated with equal dignity. This was the world Theodore had fought for. Not perfect. Not finished. But better. And better was enough for today. So what do you think? Was justice served? Did Adelaide deserve a second chance, or should Theodore have pushed for maximum sentencing? Drop your comments below. Let's have a real conversation about accountability, redemption, and what justice actually looks like. If this story moved you, if it made you think, if it made you feel something, smash that like button. Share this video with someone who needs to hear this message. And subscribe because stories like this, stories about standing up to injustice, about demanding better, about changing systems, these are the stories that matter. Remember, every time you stay silent in the face of discrimination, you're giving it permission to continue. Every time you speak up, you're changing the world. Even if it's just a little bit. Even if it's just for one person. Theodore Washington didn't set out to be a hero that day. He just refused to accept being treated as less than human. That's not extraordinary. That's the bare minimum. And if we all held ourselves and each other to that standard, imagine how different the world would be. Thank you for watching. Thank you for caring. And thank you for being part of the change. Until next time, stand up for what's right. Demand better. Be better. And never, ever let anyone tell you that you don't belong. This story teaches us that accountability is the cornerstone of real change. Theodore Washington didn't just defend himself in that moment, he stood up for every person who has faced discrimination without the resources to fight back. His decision to press charges sent a powerful message: privilege cannot shield anyone from consequences when they choose hatred over humanity. Adelaide Morgan's journey reveals that true transformation requires more than apologies. It demands uncomfortable self-examination, consistent action, and a willingness to confront decades of ingrained prejudice. Her redemption wasn't instant or easy. It came through thousands of hours of service, difficult conversations, and the humbling work of making amends to people she had harmed. The most crucial lesson is this: silence enables injustice. Every passenger who witnessed Adelaide's assault had a choice. They chose to document, to speak up, to serve as witnesses. Their courage mattered. Similarly, systems must evolve. Theodore's implementation of anti-racism policies, scholarship funds, and industry-wide standards shows that individual incidents can catalyze institutional change. We also learn that forgiveness and accountability are not mutually exclusive. Theodore never forgave Adelaide, yet he acknowledged her growth. Justice doesn't require reconciliation. It requires consequences, learning, and a commitment to preventing future harm. Real change happens when people stop performing remorse and start doing the deep, uncomfortable work of becoming better. What's your take on this incredible story? Do you believe Adelaide's transformation was genuine, or was it just damage control? Have you ever witnessed discrimination like this, and how did you respond? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I really want to hear your perspective on accountability versus redemption. If this story resonated with you, if it made you think about privilege, justice, or the power of standing up for what's right, show some love by hitting that like button. It helps this message reach more people who need to hear it. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications because we're bringing you more stories about real people facing injustice and fighting back. Stories that matter. Stories that inspire change. Share this video with your friends, your family, anyone who believes that actions should have consequences and that we all deserve to be treated with dignity and respect. Thank you for watching, for caring, and for being part of a community that refuses to stay silent in the face of hatred. Remember, you have more power than you think. Use your voice. Stand up. Make a difference. Until next time, keep fighting the good fight. Stay strong, stay kind, and never let anyone tell you that you don't belong.